Wow, this week's news stories, they really hit hard, didn't they? It's like, the world just decided to shake things up a bit, literally and figuratively.
It really does feel that way, doesn't it?
We got earthquakes, we're talking about orphanages, there's that attack on the journalist, and even, well, a falling statue.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It is. We're going from Turkey and Syria to orphanages around the world, then over to China, Italy, Japan, and even Prague.
And through it all, there's this theme of fragility, like life and the systems we depend on, and even, well, the truth, how fragile it all is.
Yeah, you're right. Fragility. That's a good word for it. And I think that's what makes these stories so powerful. They force us to confront that, that fragility.
Absolutely.
So let's dive right in. I mean, the earthquake in Turkey and Syria, it's just heartbreaking. I've been watching the news, and the images are just devastating. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake. I can't even imagine the power of that.
It's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? I mean, the energy released by a quake that size, it's like thousands of atomic bombs going off all at once.
Thousands. Seriously.
Yeah, and tragically, that region, it's right on the East Anatolian Fault, and it's one of the most seismically active areas in the world. It's where the Arabian and Anatolian tectonic plates are constantly grinding against each other, and all that pressure just builds up, and then boom, it releases as an earthquake.
So it's like a ticking time bomb almost.
In a way, yeah. And this time, well, the consequences they're just horrific.
It really makes you think about, about how vulnerable we are to these forces of nature.
It does.
Now, shifting gears a bit, you flagged a story about this global movement to end orphanages.
Yeah.
And honestly, at first glance, it seems a little counterintuitive.
I can see why you'd say that.
Aren't orphanages supposed to protect vulnerable children?
Well, yes, that's the idea, right? But the reality is it's much more complicated than that.
Okay, how so?
Well, did you know that something like 80% of children in orphanages actually have living family members?
80%. That's surprising.
It is. And what this movement is saying is that institutionalization, even when it's done with the best of intentions, it can still cause long-term harm to a child's development. It disrupts those crucial family bonds. And in a lot of cases, it's not actually orphanhood that's the root cause, but poverty or lack of support.
So it's more about keeping families together.
Exactly. It's about providing resources and support so that families can stay together whenever possible. Things like community-based childcare, financial aid for families who are struggling, and even addressing those societal stigmas that can lead to institutionalization in the first place.
That makes sense. It's like a more holistic approach, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just treating the symptom, you're tackling the root cause.
Precisely.
So what about those cases where a child truly is an orphan?
Well, even then, the focus is shifting toward family-based care. Foster care, for example, or adoption. Those are seen as better options than institutionalization.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, on to something completely different and honestly a lot more disturbing. We have to talk about that attack on the BBC journalist in China. It was just chilling to see a journalist physically attacked on live television just for doing their job.
Yeah, it was shocking.
It really makes you question, the state of press freedom in certain parts of the world.
It does. And this incident, it really underscores the dangers that journalists face, particularly those who dare to challenge those in power or expose uncomfortable truths.
It reminds us of the delicate balance between government control and the free flow of information.
Exactly. When a journalist is silenced, especially in such a public and brazen way, it sends a chilling message to other journalists. It creates an atmosphere of fear and self-censorship.
And ultimately, it's the public that suffers.
Absolutely. Without a free and independent press, we can't hold those in power accountable. We can't make informed decisions. We're left in the dark.
It's a sobering reminder of the importance of a free press and the courage of journalists who put themselves at risk to bring us the news.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, well, on to something a little lighter, although still tragic. This story about the Prada manager in Naples who was killed by a falling statue.
Oh, yes. That was just awful.
I mean, talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It doesn't get much more random than that, does it?
It really makes you realize, how fragile life is and how unpredictable it can be. You can be going about your day and then suddenly it's all over.
It's a stark reminder that we should cherish every moment.
Absolutely. And speaking of reminders from the past, we have a story about a World War II bomb detonating at a Japanese airport. I mean, you'd think after all these years, those things would be long gone.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But this incident just goes to show how the past can come back to haunt us in unexpected ways. Even decades later, these remnants of war can still pose a threat.
It's a reminder that those cleanup efforts are, well, they're still so important.
Absolutely. And not just to prevent physical harm, but also to help communities heal from the trauma of war. Imagine living with the constant fear that a bomb might be lurking beneath your feet.
Yeah, that would be terrifying. Okay, and finally, we have a story that, well, that kind of casts a shadow over the idea of tourism.
Oh, you mean the British tourist killed during a stag do in Prague?
Yeah, that one. A vodka bottle attack. What a senseless tragedy.
It is. And it reminds us that even when we're on holiday, we need to be aware of our surroundings and take precautions.
Especially when alcohol is involved. It seems like so many of these altercations, they escalate because people are, they're not thinking clearly.
That's certainly a factor in many cases.
It's a sad reminder that tragedy can strike anywhere, anytime.
True.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here. Earthquakes, orphanages, press freedom, random accidents, the legacy of war, and even violence on holiday. It's a lot to process.
It is. But it's important to engage with these stories even when they're difficult.
I agree. So for you, what stands out from all of this?
Despite how different all these stories are, they all seem to point to the same thing, the importance of connection. Connection to our loved ones, connection to our communities, and connection to the wider world. And awareness. Awareness of the risks around us, awareness of the suffering of others, and awareness of the forces that shape our lives.
That's beautifully put. So to our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on the world around us. Maybe it's sparked some questions, or maybe it's made you want to delve deeper into some of these stories.
Whatever it is, we encourage you to keep the conversation going.
That's right. Stay curious. And until next time, take care.